It's 11 p.m. on a Friday. Your phone vibrates. Direct deposit, $500. And something happens that nobody talks about. You don't smile. You don't relax. You calculate. Before you even swipe the notification away, your brain is already opened a spreadsheet. Okay, $500. Rent is $1,850, so this can't touch that. Electric bill is $180. I need at least $250 for groceries. That's $430. Leaves me with $70. But I owe Marcus $120 from 2 weeks ago, and next week's gas is another $80. So if I take $70 from this and use $100 from next week's, stop. You're not even out of the banking app yet. The money has been in your account for 30 seconds, and you've already spent it 3 different ways. Does that sound familiar? Here's what's wild. You do this every single week. The alert comes in, the calculator turns on, and for the next 6 days, you're running scenarios, making projections, moving money around in your head like you're playing financial Tetris. You are always planning how to spend the next payment, never how to keep it. Your mind never stops running because it's always borrowing from a future that hasn't arrived yet. And here's the thing nobody's saying out loud. That's not rest. That alert doesn't bring relief. It brings a reset. You're not getting paid. You're getting reloaded for another 7-day war.
Now, you'd think this would get easier, right? You'd think that after 6 months, a year, 2 years of this, you'd figure it out. You'd develop a rhythm. You'd stop feeling like this. But it doesn't stop. In fact, the better you get at managing the small amounts, the worse you feel. Because now you're not just calculating, you're optimizing. You know the exact price of every single thing you buy. You know which gas station is 3 cents cheaper. You can tell when milk went up by 50 cents. You've memorized your insurance payment down to the dollar, your phone bill, your car payment. You're brilliant at this. And yet, you're still here. Next Friday, same cycle, same mental marathon. So if you're this smart, this disciplined, this aware, why isn't it working? Let me show you what's actually happening. Imagine your life is a computer program. Rent, car insurance, student loans, medical bills, emergency fund. These are big programs. They're designed to run on a 30-day operating system. But you're getting paid every 7 days. So what you're doing, what you're forced to do, is run a 30-day program on a 7-day processor. And what happens when you overload a processor? It overheats. Your brain is overheating. Every 7 days, you reboot. Every 7 days, you restart the calculation. Every 7 days, you're back at square one, trying to stretch 7 days' worth of resources across 30 days' worth of problems. You never get to think long-term because you're always putting out short-term fires. This isn't a metaphor. This is measurable. In 2013, 2 researchers, Sendhil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir, studied what happens to the brain under financial scarcity. And they found something terrifying. The act of constantly calculating, constantly managing limited resources, constantly making trade-offs, it reduces your cognitive capacity by the equivalent of 13 IQ points. 13! That's more than losing a full night of sleep. That's the difference between thinking clearly and thinking through fog. They called it bandwidth poverty. Do you know why you feel exhausted even when you haven't done anything physical? It's because your brain is running a marathon every 7 days. You wake up calculating. You calculate in the shower. You calculate while you're eating. You calculate on your commute. And it never ends. Because the moment you solve this week, next week is already here with its own set of problems. You're not bad at math. You're mentally crowded. Now, here's where it gets psychological. That $500, it feels small. Not actually small. You know it's not nothing. But relative to the $1,850 rent, relative to the $400 car insurance payment coming up, relative to everything you need, it feels like peanuts. And here's what happens when money feels like peanuts. You treat it like peanuts. You buy things that aren't urgent, DoorDash instead of cooking, new headphones because the old ones are annoying, premium gas even though regular works fine, a shirt on sale, drinks after work, Not because you're careless, because your brain is doing something very specific. Psychologists call this the peanuts effect. When an amount of money feels too small to solve a big problem, we unconsciously disrespect it. We spend it on small problems instead. Here's the logic your brain is running. I can't win against rent with $500. I can't win against the car insurance. I can't touch my credit card debt. But I can win against my hunger. I can win against this inconvenience. I can have a small victory. So you do. And you tell yourself it's urgent. You tell yourself, I need this now. You tell yourself, next week's money will handle the big stuff. But be honest with yourself. How many times have you done this? How many times have you spent money on something small because the big problem felt too far away? And here's the trap. Next week has its own problems. Next week has its own $500 that also feels like peanuts. And the cycle continues. You're not undisciplined. You're responding rationally to an irrational system.
Let me guess what happens next. Rent is due in 3 days, and suddenly you become a monk. No unnecessary spending, no extras, no just this once. You're running the tightest budget you've ever run. Every dollar is accounted for. You're meal prepping. You're taking the bus instead of your car. You're in full survival mode. And it works. You scrape together the rent, you make it happen, you survive. And for about 72 hours after you pay it, you feel proud, disciplined, in control. But then what happens? The next Friday, the alert comes in. And because the pressure is off, because rent is handled, because you made it through, you relax. Not consciously, but your brain does. And the small spending starts again. The premium coffee, the better lunch, the I deserve this purchases. You're back to default settings. Because here's the truth. High-stress frugality is not a system, it's a reaction. You're not being disciplined, you're being scared. And the moment the fear passes, the discipline passes with it. This is what I call the 7-day bandage on a 30-day wound. You're treating the symptoms every single week, but you're never treating the underlying condition. And the underlying condition is this. You have no buffer, no margin, no distance between the problem and the pressure. Every decision you make is reactive. Every expense feels like an emergency. Every week is a negotiation between survival and stability. That's not poverty. That's fragility. And fragility doesn't feel poor. It feels unsafe.
So what do? You stop trying to fix the spending. You fix the frequency. Here's what changed the mental math for me. And I'm not saying this is a guru. I'm saying this is someone who lived in this exact cycle. I created what I call a synthetic month. Here's how it works. The moment your next $500 hits, you don't calculate. You move it immediately to a separate account, ideally one with no debit card, somewhere your brain can't access it in the moment of temptation. And you do this every single week for 4 weeks. You don't touch it. You don't borrow from it. You don't even think about it. You live on last month's money while this month's money builds. Week 1, you'll panic. Your brain will scream at you. You'll feel the squeeze. Week 2, you'll adjust. You'll find workarounds. You'll make it work. Week 3, you'll stop thinking about that account. Week 4, you'll have $2,000 sitting there. And here's what happens. That money is no longer part of the weekly mental calculation. It's quiet. It's not available in your mind, so your brain stops trying to allocate it. And for the first time in months, maybe years, you have options. The rent isn't an emergency anymore. It's a planned expense. You're not borrowing from next week. You're allocating from a pool. Your brain stops running, and you can finally think. Not in days, in months. Here's the hard truth. You can't budget your way out of a frequency problem. You can't discipline your way out of bandwidth poverty. You can only change the operating system. And the operating system is how often the money comes in. So if you can't change when you get paid, and most of us can't, then you have to simulate a different frequency. You have to build your own month. So let me leave you with this. You are not stuck because you're bad with money. You are not tired because you're weak. You are stuck because you're managing a 30-day life on a 7-day money cycle, and your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do, survive. But survival mode is not the same as growth mode. And if you want to grow, if you want to think in months instead of weeks, in years instead of months, you have to stop letting the money talk to you every 7 days. You have to let it go quiet. Let it build. Let it become useful. Start this week. Move the money before your brain does the math. And watch what happens when you stop spending money you haven't even received yet. Because the goal isn't to get rich. The goal is to get your mind back.